Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. We are
Good
live
morning.
on Facebook, hopefully YouTube and Twitter. Hopefully, if I did everything right this week. And this is Natalie with Atlanta Sex Therapy and the team. And we're here each week at 9:30 on Fridays to talk to you about a theme of the week and what we're doing and exciting new things that we're seeing in the field. And so I will now silence my phone and let everybody just check in with how they're doing today. And what's the one thing they saw this week before I jump on one main theme. Let's start with Sharian because you were first today.
Okay. I'm just talking about my day, right? My morning.
Just how you doing and how was the week?
I'm doing pretty good, and the week was really well. Enjoying my life being a therapist. That's about all.
What do you enjoy most about being a therapist?
The fact that I learn, and the more that I learn, I get to help others.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay. All right, good. All right, Jessica, how you doing today?
I'm good. I think the most thing that's pressing on my mind is trying to find a therapist. So at some point, I would love to talk about what that looks like, and like insurance and EAP and what does that mean, and like, yeah, because I was in it last night and I'm just like, this is so stressful and I hate it.
That's a good question. And actually, I think we should spend our whole time talking about that.
Yes.
All right, Mary Hannah, how are you?
I'm doing well. Had a good week. I would say like one thing that stuck out to me this week of just like a little mini nugget was just like helping people learn to recognize and communicate their own needs, right? I think a lot of times people say that they have like communication problems when it's really learning what to communicate about, right? Like, that's what I need in this conversation, and that's what I need you to know, so something like that could go a really long ways.
Okay, cool. All right, and Joe, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. It's been a pretty, it's been busy, a lot of different things, but it's been a good week.
Okay,
good week.
All right, anything really standing out for you in the week as a theme or something you've been hearing on the phone with our clients?
No, it's been pretty across the board this week.
Okay.
Not much. Not much.
All right. Well, I am loving fall, and I think this week just loving fall actually.
Yeah.
And so noticing that I do better in the fall than most other seasons. Like I'm just more productive. I can get more things done. It's just amazing that like, oh, fall is here and now I can do all of these things. So, okay. All right. So our theme for the day will be how to find a good therapist, how to find the right therapist, and what all of the letters and everything mean. With that, I will say it is not easy to find a therapist these days. One of the things that I would love to change about our field, but it is what it is practices not answering the phones. A lot of clinicians out there are solopreneurs, and so they're doing everything, and they don't want to answer the phone while they're in session. Which, as clinicians or as clients, we don't want our therapists answering phones during session. The catch is that when you're a new client trying to call and find a therapist, it's hard to get a call back. It's hard to get through and talk to somebody, which plug for our practice. Job is answering the phone at our practice to make sure our clients are getting through to one, a real person, and two, like their needs are getting met without a lot of back and forth with that. All right, so Jessica, one of your questions is, what is EAP?
Oh, it's not necessarily that was a question. It was one of the things that I struggled with because I was using my EAP service through my job, which didn't align with any of the recommendations that I had gotten from a referral, because all of the people that I had gotten from a referral don't go with insurance. So it's all out of pocket. So I was trying to find somebody on both of the lists that would match, and it didn't work. And then I
Wow.
was also frustrated that like on my insurance system, it's like we handle these 16 or 22 different things. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I know that most therapists can handle a lot of those things, but like there's a difference
Mm-hmm.
between handling it and specializing it in
Very
it.
much so. Very much so.
So just kind of wanted to bring that up as well.
Yeah. No, I think definitely this day and age, you're going to have to do your due diligence and do your research. And so a lot of clinicians, including myself, when we first start out, we don't really know what we're specializing in, and we just need to start making money. So we get on all of the EAPs, and then we get on all of the insurance panels we can. And so we're really generalists. And so usually if you're dealing with the EAP company or a insurance company, you're going to get a generalist, and probably somebody a little bit newer in the field, because that's such a good way to get started and build your practice with that. And so do your due diligence, like look at websites, look at what they're saying or whatnot. And then of course, like every profession out there, there are going to be some good ones and some bad ones. Like there's some good doctors and some bad doctors. There's some good cleaning services and some bad cleaning services. There's some good therapists and there's some bad therapists. So let's go kind of around because I want everybody talking. Sharing, what do you think if you were calling to find a therapist, what are 3 questions you would be asking? I know, I'm sorry, I put you on the spot with that one, didn't I?
You know how I am. I'm a little camera shy. So
Mhm.
let's see here. Let's see. 3 questions that I would ask my therapist would be probably their working hours, and I'll explain why I say working hours. It's
Mhm.
because if you are only practicing during the time of the day that I'm stressed out and I have to put you in on a lunch break, not saying it is bad, put me in on a lunch break if you want to, but is it a good time of day for me? Your hours,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
And is trying to match my hours with the therapist's hours going to cause me more stress?
Yeah.
Because I know that they only work to 5. Now I have to hurry up and get off work. So I think
Yeah.
I would wonder what hours they're working. Maybe if they're in office or telehealth. I think the second thing I may ask a therapist would probably be, I don't know. See, I don't know about if I were to ask their specialty. I don't know. So I'm trying to think of me as a non-therapist, right? And a
Mhm.
client that's coming in. I think I would probably just describe my problem maybe and ask them or why I think I'm coming and ask them, am I a client for you?
That's a good
Right?
question. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, is this
Yeah.
something that maybe you have experience with?
Mhm.
Or is this kind of like something, I don't want to say that you think you can handle, but just
Mhm.
describe the problem and see what type of feedback the therapist give you.
Yeah.
And I guess just in that, just even pay attention to how you are experiencing the therapist and just go with your intuition.
Yeah.
Because you want to have a clinician or a therapist that you like, that you
Yeah.
mesh with, that
Yeah.
is, and it's okay if you don't, because there's
Yeah.
one out there that you will.
Yeah.
And I guess the third thing, I don't know, y'all. I'm such a hippie in what I do. I don't think I have a third one. A third.
Too.
Just be free.
That's honest.
All right.
That's
And if
honest.
you like what you're hearing, and if the energy is there and the therapists have the ingredients that you believe that you are looking for, then go with their ingredients of warm. Do you think they have the empathy? Do you think they will have the understanding? Do you
Mhm.
think that they will just be able to make you feel no judgment, no bias? And I think that would be the most important thing.
Yeah.
Just how do you feel in the flow of the conversation, especially if you're talking to them directly?
Excellent job. Excellent job. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go with how I see you guys on my screen, which is clockwise. All right, Mary Hannah, what do you think would be
Mhm.
3 important things to know before somebody book with you specifically? I'm gonna change the question.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So again, like I echo all of Sharian's sentiments, like especially with the idea of like meshing with someone, right? We all have our own style and our own approach as therapists, and I would want people to know that like their style would mesh with mine, And I will say too, even before getting to that, I see my own therapist, right? And for me, such a key thing of starting that was being able to recognize in myself when I needed to start that, right? So I'm a student, and whenever I was looking for my internship, I could tell that like my body was going through a lot of stress, and I knew I would be going through more stress as I went through this huge transition year of finishing up school and starting internship. And so it was taking that moment to recognize in myself, like, I need to strengthen my coping skills right now. And having someone and having that space to talk and listen would help me so much right now. So I just feel like even being able to recognize in the moment what it is that you're needing, and being able to recognize that, yeah, I really need someone to talk to, is such a huge important first step, right?
Right.
Things that I would want, 3 things I would want people to know about me, is I'm systemic. So because I'm a marriage and family therapist intern, I like to talk about everything that's going on in your life. So it may not feel like we're always directly talking about the problem, but I promise that it will most likely wrap back around in some way. So I think that's super important.
Mary Hannah,
I
will you
think,
take just a
yeah.
moment and go a little bit deeper on what being a systemic therapist means?
Yes, yeah. So, especially like in Western culture, right? It's very common to see like cause and effect, like linear thinking, right? And as for a therapist or a systemic therapist, we see the ecosystem of a person's life, right? And we try to specifically look at how can we change and enact change in the system to help create lasting change, right? So this may look like working with a whole family instead of just an individual, or like a couple instead of just one person. And it's possible to work with an individual and work with them systemically as well. But it's the idea of like, if we can change the system, then that will really help get the ball rolling for lasting change.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right, Jessica, I'm gonna give you 3 questions. Being on the therapist side, what do you think the 3 questions clients should be asking when they're trying to look for a therapist?
So I think looking at how the therapist meshes with your identities is very important. Some people may not feel comfortable talking to a male. Some people may feel comfortable talking to a male and uncomfortable with a female. Presenting as, you know, a person of color, of like, if I've had experiences, like as a Caucasian, I haven't had the same experiences of someone of color. And so if that's important for as a client to have that identified in your therapist, that's something that, like, because of the identities that I have, I'm not going to be able to understand as fully as someone who hasn't. But understand that there are also things in a therapist that you don't see. And so being aware of, like, just because you're talking to a male doesn't mean that he may not have experienced sexual assault himself. And so, like, right, he still may be able to understand what it feels like to be victimized or be in that situation. It may not look exactly the same, but, like, don't assume that the identity means that they've had a particular set of experiences, because that may not be true. And if something like that, like, ask those questions. I think also getting an idea, and I don't know if many therapists would be able to discuss, like, just on like an intake call, but like, what is the average time of therapy? Like, how long do you spend with clients? So that I can prepare myself as a client of like, if you're going to tell me to come in once a week, like I can't do that for my pocketbook. I can't afford that. And
Mhm.
as much as I may need that help or want that help, I can't afford that. So like, how can we work with that and kind of meet in the middle to where I'm not putting myself in jeopardy financially in
Mhm.
order to help myself into this other area?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. All right, Joe, you're on the phones talking to our clients every day. What do you think the 3 best questions they need to ask before choosing a clinician?
Well, I'm going to go off grid and I'm going to
Okay.
go from my side.
All
And
right.
what I get from them is when they call in, typically I listen to what it is that they want and the reason. I have 2 questions. I say, what is the reason you're calling in for therapy?
Mhm.
And after they tell me their reason, I start looking through the therapists that we have on staff to see who's a good fit. And over time, just out of experience, I found out that there are certain people who fit other people.
Mhm.
For instance, all those things that we just talked about, everything that Sharian, Mary, Hannah, Jess, and even yourself and Lamar, who's, also a therapist. I go through that list and I ask them, after I get a feel and find out the reason, I ask them if there's a budget. By their talking, sometimes they say, well, I've been on the website, I've listened to the video, I want to go with this one. But overall, I listen to what they're saying and I get the underlying current of what they're talking about. I get a feel for them.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's not as important the scholastic part as it is the feel and who it is
Yeah.
that's going to fit them in the end. So I
Yeah.
put them with a person that I believe is going to fit them unless there's something that they haven't told me that I don't see.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Not necessarily see, but in here. So I put them with the therapist that I feel is going to fit them. There was a client that called in for one of our therapists, and I had no idea about this client, what they wanted. And without knowing that background, I put them with the therapist that I thought would be a good fit for them. After I spoke to the therapist was like, that's perfect. You didn't even know that about me, but that was a perfect match.
Mhm.
So I asked them also in that, I tell them, if they start him and hawing, I say, well, is it something about your budget? I can go over your budget with you. And this is important because we want to make sure we treat the overall person. They're here for health purposes. And we want to make sure that they get better. We don't want money to stand in the way. And so I dig into that and I say, okay, so is it something with your budget? Are you asking about that because of your budget? We can work with you on the budget. Just tell me, be honest with me, and I can help you. I can get you to the right therapist, and we can help you with your budget. The other part of that is if they, a lot of times they do ask how many times the therapist wants to see them and so forth. So I said, well, if you have a challenge with your finances, let them know that you can come as opposed to every week. Tell them you can come every other week or once a month. Just be honest. We'll work with any kind of way, but we still want you to get the treatment. The other part I ask them when they call in is what your goal is. After you leave therapy, looking back, what would you like to see? And then they tell me. So pretty much they've already summarized what it is they're looking for, and then I put them with the right therapist. So that's 2 things. And then we go into, I send them paperwork, so forth, to go ahead and fill out. And then I also make sure that the therapist knows they're coming in. So that's my side of it. And I make sure that we dig into the reasons of the whys. And in that, I get an idea of who to put them with. And I also ask them, are they particular about a male or female therapist? Because if a rape victim has come in and it's a male that has, dealt with them, they're not going to want to typically see a male or vice versa. So, also the color part comes in, are the therapists, do you have any African-American or Caucasian, therapists? So all this is part of the conversation in that free 20-minute call
Yeah.
that I get. And so we're going through all this, and it's a snapshot of it, but I try and make sure that they get everything they need on that call. And before they're done, I want to make sure that they've done an excellent job in being transparent and telling me what it is that they want. I
Yeah.
always pat them on the back and tell them they've done an excellent job
Yeah.
at sharing with me what it is that they're coming in for therapy about.
Mhm.
And I just had another question earlier this week. Is this typical? Are we weird? Are we strange? Heck no, you're not strange. You're not the Lone Ranger. That's why we're here.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And we're here to help. So I also end up with anytime they have any questions or concerns, call me, call your therapist, and it's in the email, as you all get. I send the welcome email again to all the therapists as well as the client when they come in. And if they have questions, they can always contact the therapist. So it's an open-end conversation. So
Yeah.
we like to embrace them coming in, but we also let them know that we are serious about their health. And when they come in here, they need to be serious about it too.
Yeah. Definitely so. Those are all great answers. Thank you. And so
I have one more
okay.
thing that I wanted to add real quick.
All right.
I also ran into the problem last night of finding people and then those people are not accepting new clients.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So if you fall in love with a therapist online, please check to see if they're accepting therapist or accepting new clients.
Yeah.
Because that is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. Okay.
Hmm.
So let's see. What do I want to add to the conversation? If you are having a problem and you are having a hard time finding a therapist, be diligent. Please be diligent. And I understand because I just recently, a couple of months ago, had to find a new therapist. And I really, honest to God, was shocked at the amount of therapists that I couldn't get through to, or I wound up going with the only one that called me back. Just because I got to talk to him. And so be diligent. I am so sorry on behalf of our profession right now that just seems to be a thing, that getting a call back from a therapist. And actually, y'all got to call a client right now. It's coming up for me. But with that, and so be diligent. The other thing, as everybody has said, having a good feel and fit, especially if you're going to do something like sex therapy. Like I've had one or two clients who didn't even really tell me the real issue until we were 6 months in. And so, great. I'm so glad you finally told me.
Right.
But it's just like, I could have helped you faster. I could have worked this into the treatment plan sooner. We could have you at results sooner. And so if you are looking for a therapist, please make sure it's somebody that you feel like you can feel that you're comfortable with. And you may need to ask them, whoever you're talking to on the phone, like, are you comfortable talking about this topic? And so if it's an intro consult call, they don't know you yet. You don't know them yet. And so just say what you're needing, say what the issue is with that. I'd also say, be conscious of your budget so you can make a commitment. And so my clients who have the greatest success are my clients who were committed to the process. They did not come in thinking I'd be out in 6 sessions and done with that. Because as we've talked about on these calls before, change takes time. Nobody is able to change immediately, especially, Mary Hannah, if you're in a system, because you will make a change and then your system will have reactions, and then you'll have to figure out, can you hold that change and how to in a system with that. And especially if we're talking about an intimacy issue or a sex issue, oftentimes these are deeper issues. They are, because sex is so private and so intimate and so deep for people. And they haven't talked about a lot of things out loud. And so I know in some of our sessions, we just are trying to find the right language to use that we can build upon. Learning to talk about sex is a huge thing in a couple of clients and sessions that I've had. So we've spent the first couple of sessions, just getting comfortable with different sexual topics so that we can really understand the problem that's going on. And also, I would want you to have a therapist, especially if it's a sex therapy issue, who's willing to consult with other professions. And so like Mary Hannah, you and I have been talking about vaginismus this week. Okay, we need input from the OBGYN. We will probably need input from a physical therapist. And so we also, as a customer or client, a consumer of therapeutic services, I want you to have a clinician who's open to hearing those other voices as well with that. All right, what else is coming up for you ladies as we talk about finding a clinician?
I did want to add something. And
Okay.
this doesn't have anything to do with your question, but the compliment that keeps happening for our practice over and over again, I'm giving myself a pat on the back, is that I've called so many different people and you're the first one that I've called, or you returned my call when I left a message.
Mm-hmm.
I get that over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
so that kind of diddles what you said earlier,
Yeah.
Because people are having a hard time with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but usually if it's not the weekend, they will get a call back or answer to an email. So we always respond, period.
Mm-hmm. And I do feel so bad for people because like me looking for this therapist, like I have identified this is a problem and I can't fix it myself and I've got to talk to somebody. And so to find time in my schedule to sit down to identify 5 therapists that I could like to call and then not be able to get a call back, it was a little disheartening. It was a little disheartening. And so please don't be disheartened. And I'm gonna put us out there, Joe. So I hope we don't get bombarded with calls, but we know other clinicians. And so I'm going to put it out there. If you can't find a therapist out there, first of all of us are trained as generalists first, either LPCs or LMFTs. And so we really can handle most problems that come. And then we all specialize, because they work here with me at Atlanta Sex Therapy, in sexual issues. So we have that, but that's a specialty, but we're all generalists first. And so if you need a therapist, call us. If we can't handle it, Joe will give you the name of another therapist who's taking cleanicians. And so hopefully I didn't put us too far out there that we can't handle, but we want to be helped. We want to be here to serve. Like this, this is what we're here for. To serve. We are a service industry. We are service providers. And so we want to be here to serve. So if we can help the world and help you find a therapist, we will. We will. Definitely.
I also just wanted to call out something real quick because we've kind of talked about it like broadly. So your therapist should also have a therapist. Right. Like it's not a bad thing for your therapist to have a therapist, because that's what a therapist does, is they help you process things, and therapists by profession are also bringing in a lot of things and to be able to process. So I just wanted to kind of explicitly say that this is a healthy practice and that you should not be concerned that your therapist has a therapist.
That was an excellent point, right? Because it's almost like a cook that won't eat their own food. Like, why is that? You with that. And so you definitely want somebody who's a consumer of the services that they subscribe to, a consumer of the brand of treatment that they themselves are delivering. And so, like my mom would say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I think that's very true. But also what really helps with that, and it's 10 o'clock, so we got to go in just a minute, is that therapist is going to be healthier to help you. And so you're going to really be able to have the space in your session to only talk about yourself and not have to worry about, the therapist using you as their therapist with that. So, okay. We have to run. That has been our 30 minutes. So ladies, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much for your comments and your inputs and just all the fabulous work you do for our fabulous people. And we'll talk next week.
Thank you. And what's our number? Our phone number.
Our phone number is 1-888-788-4624. and we will somehow figure out how to put that on screen next time. So we're working, we're getting better and better. We got the name up there. Y'all see the name? And Atlanta Sex Therapy and Inside Look. So we're getting there. I'll get the phone number up there too. Bye, ladies.
Good job.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.